So in this podcast, we're going to have a lot of discussions about performance-enhancing drugs, research chemicals, and other things with very minimal human testing. My goal is not to glorify the ingestion of these drugs, but to have an open and honest discussion around what's happening in this community and at the bleeding edge of climbing. If you have an issue with ideating these compounds or think this isn't for you, I completely understand. This is an educational and for entertainment purposes only, and I implore you not to use anything mentioned in this podcast. Please be safe out there, and with that said, let's hop into the conversation. All right, and we're back. I'm here with Thomas. Thomas is a rock climbing coach as well as V12 climber. You guys know Adam with Anabolic Climbing. And we have another realistically very high level climber that is testing out some various compounds. And I just wanted to check in with him, see what his experience was like, get the pros, the cons, his approach to climbing. And hey, Thomas, how's it going, man?
It's pretty good. I'm just hanging out. I'm having a good time. I'm reeling from surgery, doing pretty well.
So before we get into sort of your history, what surgery did you just finish up with?
I just finished up my third ACL reconstruction.
Christ.
Full ACL reconstruction.
That's brutal, man. I honestly so I have a lot of friends that are super tough, and some of the only times I've ever seen them cry was after ACL surgery. So how far removed from that are you?
So I injured it January 10th. It is now February.
So it's been about a month. It's February 7th.
It's been about a month. I had surgery the 22nd, so it's been probably 2.5 weeks since, and I started a little bit of dosing about a week and a half ago.
Got it. Is this your first ACL surgery?
It is not. So I've been climbing for about 3 years, and in those 3 years, I have now torn my ACL 3 times. So about once a year, I tear my ACL. So I tore my right ACL, fully reconstructed, fully recovered, tore my right ACL, fully reconstructed, fully recovered, and then I just tore my left ACL.
Well, we got to have symmetry and balance. Just got to keep that even. What were the climbs that got you tearing your ACL, man?
So the first one was when I was trying my first, I was about to send my first V8. I was skipping V7, obviously.
Of course.
I fell, my knee just naturally hyperextends. I'm hypermobile. And I landed on it with it hyperextended and it just exploded. The second time, Boulder, Colorado, Trice, it's a V12 in Flagstaff. It's pretty historic, actually. I think it's the first V12. I don't know. It's crazy. And then this time I was just going for kind of a crazy dyno at the end of a session. I slip off the hold and then I rotate as I fall. My leg was bent, but it was rotating, so my knee kind of just went like a bloop.
Gross. Damn, dude. I'm hoping this is your last ACL tear for a while.
Yeah.
Got it. So you have been climbing for 3 years, and even then, you were able to climb V12 within 3 years in spite of having 3 ACL tears.
Yeah.
How?
So I have a history in debate. I have a history in, more specifically, just thinking very analytically in the sense of what could I be doing that's most optimal? And I'm a neuroscience major, and so I adore science. I adore all of that, and so my main focus as a climber is always just targeting what I'm weakest at. And so that has always been my thing. And coincidentally enough, when you tear your ACL and can't walk, you start thinking about, wait, my fingers are actually really weak, or my shoulders are really weak. And so you just start training because there is nothing else to do. And so you start training really intently, and suddenly you work on your weaknesses quite well.
I respect the hell out of the fact that you take your downtime to shore up your weaknesses. I think a lot of climbers would benefit from the idea of, when I can't do X, it's an opportunity to get stronger in Y. That's super, super smart.
Yeah.
So your first time trying anything was really for this ACL surgery, correct?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly true. This is my first time doing anything.
So was this sort of spurred on by this injury, or was it something that you were looking at even prior?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I'd say about a month and a half ago, I didn't know that peptides were used at all exogenously.
Okay.
And so my friend was basically just joking around about it, and he was just like, "Well, maybe I'll just hop on peptides so I can climb every day and never get injured." And like obviously, let's be very clear about that.
Yeah.
That is just not that is not like a valid like way to think about it. But and I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. So I started looking it up, and I stumbled upon you of all people.
Surprise.
Fantastic work and just incredible videos. Was or not superfluous, but filled with evidence and filled with actual pros, actual cons. And then I tore my ACL, and then I'm like, well, now that I was like kind of thinking about this already, it
You shot me a DM
actually would
after
be
that.
probably
Yeah.
pretty beneficial to start taking.
Uh, I mean, first off, I really appreciate the praise on that one, and
Of course.
I do think that what you're going through is probably a similar pattern to a lot of climbers,
Yeah.
where a lot of folks aren't planning on getting enhanced until an injury hits. And I do think
Yeah.
that in general, we're probably a pretty chronically injured population. So it's not really a surprise that there are folks that are gravitating toward the peptides. I'm just sort of noticing a pattern now of younger climbers, because it was both you and then Thomas the other day, where yeah, my friend was telling me about peptides and I'm also hearing this from a lot of youth coaches where everyone's asking.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, how prevalent is that around your age group?
Oh God, I'd say like not at all.
Okay.
I'm surrounded by collegiate athletes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I compete more in that. I'm more in the outdoor and like not like official competing in like USAC or anything. So I don't care about being WADA banned. But like not. It's just not prevalent. I don't know anyone that's like taking anything, which is super interesting to me.
Is it sort of like, is it common in conversation? Because I know you said your friend was looking at it. Because, like, look, I would be really happy if most of younger guys and gals aren't looking into this. I think that would be sort of a net benefit. But I'm also starting to hear rumblings about it more and more, and it seems more commonplace. So I'm just trying to get a
Sure.
temperature check. You know what I mean?
No, totally. I mean, honestly, I don't think it comes up super commonly. It's still pretty like taboo in conversation, or like in the sense of like nobody really knows anything about them, to be
Sure.
quite honest,
Yeah.
unless until you like get in and start looking at things and like become a part of like the community that's more like open to having these intelligent conversations and open conversations about it. People just don't really know much about it. And so I'm sure there are people, but the people who are not involved in that kind of thing aren't going to talk about it because they just don't know to talk about it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. They don't know what they don't know. So at this point, how long have you been? So you're leveraging both healing peptides, right? TB
Yes.
and BPC
Yeah.
157. So how long have you been running it so far?
I have been on it for about, let's say, a week and a half now. Possibly 2 weeks, but yeah, I'm on. It's a 1-to-1 blend,
Hmm.
so it's 500 UG a day each, which is a fine dose at my stature.
Yeah.
But I mean, as we talked about a little bit ago, before the video started, there's not really too much consensus on like actual dosing
Dosing,
optimization
yeah.
and different things like that. And so I kind of just went off what I thought would be a safe, manageable dose for my body, and I am reacting quite well. Happy to say.
So how would you compare this experience versus your previous two ACL surgeries?
Yeah, so the really interesting part is I obviously started taking this because one, I just wanted better ACL reconstruction.
Mhm.
And then two, my last ACLR had a hamstring graft. This one is patellar tendon, which
Yep.
is, if you don't know, way better. As a climber, if any of you out there tear your ACL, get a patellar tendon. Do not do the hamstring. It debilitates you. You'll never be able to do a heel hook for like actually a year and 2 months. It's insane. But it's been going fantastically. I think I started taking it about day 3 after surgery, just because I didn't want to start pinning it immediately, like day of surgery and going on, just because that like acute inflammatory phase is important.
Yep.
But it's been going fantastically. I got my stitches out. They healed exceptionally well. My knee feels exceptionally well. I've been very little pain. And honestly, I'm doing about as well as I can be. And the funny thing is, because obviously after ACL surgery, you can't really do anything because your leg has to be constantly elevated.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that like first 2 weeks, you can't like go to the gym and work out, because if your leg's below your heart for more than an hour, you just like basically die. And so in the sense of like it's just painful and you can't move and it's awful. And
no,
you're not
I
crushing it.
assumed that there would be a lot of additional swelling and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so because you're not moving, basically your entire body becomes tweaky.
Yep.
The funny thing is, I had a like both sides chest tweak and shoulder tweak from the crutch use, because it was just 3.5 straight weeks of crutches.
Yeah.
It's all gone. It's just all gone. And like, I'm not saying it's miracle and I'm not saying anything, but it's all gone. And my shoulders feel fantastic. The chest tweaks are completely gone. And that's just very interesting to me. That's just a very interesting anecdotal thing.
What was the difference between that versus your previous ACL surgeries? Because that seems like, to your point, right? A hamstring graft is very different than a patellar.
Yeah.
But the crutches are sort of things that we could carry over from A to point B. So how is the difference in pain on that this time around versus last time?
Whoa, worlds apart. Okay. I was in substantial amounts of pain. I would also like to mention just general atrophy and also quad inhibition.
Yep.
Because of the inflammation that occurs in the knee, your quad becomes massively inhibited, and then your leg just shrinks because you can't use your quad effectively. This time, the inflammatory phase just immediately like went down, because I'm assuming it's because obviously the BPC 157 effects of getting past the like super inflammatory phase immediately. I could fully fire my quad, like individual quad muscles, 2.5 days after surgery.
That's fucking crazy.
I could walk 2.5 days after surgery. Last time I couldn't walk till week 4.
That's fucking insane. Yeah.
It's insane. It's just insane. It's just insane.
Are you back on the wall yet, or are you still?
So I am. Yeah. And that's kind of the thing.
Okay.
And like,
yeah.
Nobody wants to see it. Nobody wants to hear about it. But it's my body. It's my third ACLR. I kind of know what I can and can't do at this point.
Yep.
Keep in mind, this is like, I'm on a board climb and I'm like going back and forth about 2 feet off the ground.
That's fine.
This is about getting meaningful finger, shoulder, arm stimulus, while also, because my hamstring isn't I didn't use a hamstring graft, my ability to actually tension into the wall is unimpeded.
Way better, yeah.
It's completely unimpeded. And so I get meaningful, I'm getting meaningful stimulus as of I restarted climbing 2 days ago, but still.
I want to check in on this again in the next 3 to 4 weeks. How much longer are you planning on running the BPC and TV?
Currently I have about another month and a half of just availability to me right now. I honestly think I'll just continue, because like additionally to the ACL benefits, just I am a high volume climber. That is just how I train. That's just how I climb. I'm just addicted to actually climbing. And so I do it all the time. And so the benefit to me of like actually just having meaningful, like I feel good about all my joints. I feel good about all my ligaments, and also the availability for my ligaments and tendons to just heal from the increased stimulus that I'm already going to give. I'll do it.
So I do want to check back in and see if there are any changes to fingers or sort of your shoulders. I was also thinking about my other conversation with Thomas the other day as it related to using it for comps for higher volume, because I am of mixed opinions on this, and I was just sort of thinking about this after the podcast when I was listening to it back, because if you're going to run some of this stuff chronically, there's sort of the question of, does the additional stimulus from the training justify the anti-inflammatory response? So whenever you blunt the inflammation response, you basically limit the net adaptation that's going to happen on that, which makes a ton of sense to do from a healing context or for ACL surgery. But to run things for chronic repair in just like normal training states with the additional pro-cancer risks, I don't like... if someone was doing it for the sake of trying to brute force through a comp, could you? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's an option. Could you do that big wall? Yeah, you could. But for a comp perspective, you could also just
Yeah.
hop into an ice bath for a couple of minutes and get a similar anti-inflammatory
Yeah.
response,
Totally.
and use that to just brute force your way through it rather than having to deal with the additional cancer exposure. And at some point or another, I do want to look at other anti-inflammatory stuff, not necessarily for injury repair, but for things like just making it through a really brutal comp season.
Yeah.
That's because I would be very hesitant to get the community really into using it chronically. I think that I have no doubt people are going to do it, and I still want to hear how that goes. And
totally.
But I don't think it's good practice, and I don't think it's good style. And I just want to make sure that as we have those data sets, it makes sense to document them, but also give all the caveats and warnings, because, I don't think that that's good practice until we have some sort of human data that says it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And a very clear point that you touched on beautifully that I did not forgot to mention. The ACL recovery timeline, 7 months. So even when I run out of what I have currently for a month and a half, I'm still well within my ACL window.
Yeah.
As in, I'm still solid. That is my primary reason. And that is what I want to be clear about, is that it would be the primary reason that I would be continuing to do that. Past a certain point where I have pretty solid return to sport ability and such things like that, that is when I would definitely take a solid relook at my needs and what I'm doing.
So to that point, we were talking about some of the guys that influenced me, Vigor Steve, Leon Longevity, and they both kind of say the first time you pin something, it's kind of like a cannon event where you basically open up a threshold and 1,000 more doors open to you.
Yeah.
So now that you've sort of walked through that door, does that sort of give an itch of man, there's other stuff I could try? Or where do you sort of sit now that you've walked through that door and opportunities are available to you, but there wasn't really a plan to do this going in?
Sure. To be honest.
Yeah, please.
Not really. I honestly don't really have that. I would be terrified of taking stronger things, like tests and Anabar and other things like that. And don't get me wrong, I know from you, and I know from a couple other documentaries about the pros and cons of each of those things. But to be honest, I honestly want to keep it as contained as possible.
Yeah.
And I was watching a growth hormone video yesterday, and I'm like, I really don't want my nose to be any bigger than it is already. And don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna mega dose it, but I honestly want to keep it pretty constrained, just because I know what it feels like to feel good, and I know what it feels like to obviously not feel good. And for my ability to maintain that vision is super, super important to me. I want to be able to know when I'm injured. I want to be able to know when I'm not, and I want to be able to know that my body's reacting well to just baseline, basically.
No, that's a super responsible way to go about it, and I appreciate. It's also really reassuring that there are folks that open up that door and then don't immediately feel obligated to take all of the different flavors of candy in the candy store.
Yeah.
And just on a personal level, I have no desire to have a bigger nose or a bigger brow or bigger feet. One of the reasons I paused on growth hormone for as long as I did is I didn't want to have to buy new shoes, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
But the flip side is, part of me is also thinking, okay, what is that hypothetical line that when we really start pushing it, that's where you start rubbing up against it? And, I hang out in circles with a lot of bodybuilders and bodybuilding coaches, and I have a lot of data to draw from that I don't have to just lean on the climbing community, which is good because most people aren't doing this here. But I'll see how hard I want to escalate some of those doses. Right now, I've been at 3 IUs pretty consistently now for the last 3 months. Recovery has been really good. Finger strength has continued to move in a pretty linear fashion. At some point or another, maybe I'll try bumping up to 4. There's no hurry. I don't know if I mentioned this. So October is when I'm heading out to France to do Rainbow Rocket. And if I did not have that immediate date or that time pressure, I would probably stretch this out for a couple of years and there wouldn't be a pressure to it. Because I feel like I'm on a clock, I'm still well within my risk tolerance, but it's still higher than what I would advise someone if they didn't have that time frame. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Also, I think this is something else that we touched on. I'm actually really happy that folks like yourself and the other Thomas are testing some of this out at a much higher climbing ceiling. Because I'm probably never touching V12 or V13 or V15. And it's great to see other folks in the sport testing some of these things out to figure out, does it make sense at higher or lower ends of the sport?
Yeah, I think that's one of the really interesting parts. And that's honestly really, really, that's the number one reason I wanted to have this conversation with you, is because no matter what level of climbing you are, and no matter how much you like intentionally make sure you don't compare yourself to other climbers that are better than you, it's inherent. It's a human quality. It's inherent. I compare myself to other climbers.
Yeah, of course.
I always will, and I always have. I would like to mention the ability that I have gotten to for my climbing is in like completely WADA protocol. I did that without any peptide, without anything like that. Creatine and collagen is all I was on, and that's where I got to.
Got to get you on some vitamin C and zinc, man.
Yeah. Oh, I take those too. And so the reason that I appreciate it is because when I compare myself, which I will, to much better climbers than I, it's important to mention that while I am not making any accusations at all, we know what WADA testing is like. We know what certain things are like. And so when we look at climbers, for example, and I'm not making any accusations very clearly, when we look at Toby Roberts' training plan and it's 18 days on and 2 days off, we have to look at ourselves honestly. And we have to say, am I, without taking anything, is that a safe idea for me? Or is that like feasible for me? For most people, probably not, is the answer.
Yeah. I mean, 18 on, 2 is off is insane. Even assisted, that's still an absolutely savage training schedule. I do think there is something to be said for the folks that can tolerate that level of punishment. But obviously, you hit the wall. He was out for a while just because, you hit the wall.
Yeah, he hit a wall. And that's interesting because it's kind of funny to say, but, you know, my previous training plan was pretty similar to that.
Yeah.
That before I tore this ACL, I am a high volume climbing. That's all I do.
At some point or another, behind a paywall or something not publicly facing, I do want to go into more depth about the gaps in WADA because I'm making a meme out of this, but if I look at all of the things that I'm taking and also things that I think that climbers would be willing to take get across the finish line proverbially, I think more than half of it WADA couldn't pick up. And look, I don't give a shit. I obviously have no issue with folks enhance as long as they're honest about it. But if the folks seem to want clean sport, it makes sense that they're able to do something in a way that they get it. And like I said, there's a few different compounds that you could run into a comp that WADA wouldn't test for. And you know, it doesn't bother me, but I think it just casts doubt on climbers that don't inherently deserve it.
Yeah, I think there is an interesting part about that where it kind of is a level playing field for very high athletic athletes in our space to be able to take these things because of the ease of not being caught taking them.
Yeah.
And so like it obviously where we're at right now is not ideal. But like there is an inherent bit about that. But what I will say is I am 100% honest about the dosing, the amount, and what I'm taking. Those elite athletes are not. They're just simply not. And so there's conversations that have to be had.
This is where, if there are any MMA fans out there, I'm not going to advocate for anything Chael Sonnen has done outside of being one of the most prolific trash talkers, but I agree with him when he says, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And, you know, I encourage fairness in sport, but if everyone's doing it, it's not cheating is there are periods in sport like that, and
Yeah.
it just comes with the territory.
Yeah.
When Bonds and McGuire and Sosa were just nuking balls from orbit, everyone was just sauced out, and that was amazing.
Oh, God, those
Also,
Olympics were beautiful.
dude, that's when you could get super draw at GNC. What a time to be alive! Like your generation has peptides. The previous generation had SARMs. Our generation had super draw at GNC, which was probably the best tool out of all of them. I mean, red is pretty good, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Are there any things from this process that you didn't expect?
I was not expecting the non-ACL stuff.
Okay.
To be honest,
Yeah.
I completely went into this thinking the reason that I'm taking this is not to get a competitive edge over my peers.
No, you want to get back to play.
I want to get back to my playing field so that I can compete with my peers.
Yep.
Because most people don't have an extraordinary posterior tibial slope that causes them 3 ACL ruptures. Most people aren't tearing their ACL 3 times. And so I just want to get back to my sport. I was not expecting the other things. I generally have moderately tweaky fingers, but I have never had a micro injury in climbing. I just haven't. I've never had a finger tweak. I've never had a shoulder tweak. I've never had anything like that, which is mildly interesting.
It's a blessing.
But I do feel like that post ACLR. And so to not feel like that is just interesting to me this close out of surgery. And so that was interesting. I, by my own stupidity, probably had a little bit of hassle trying to, batch certify. But past that, it's been pretty streamlined.
Honestly, everyone is just I have a ton of BPC in the house right now. And at some point or another, I'm probably going to run it for a month just to fact check what some of the claims that you guys are making.
Sure.
In fairness, I'm not willing to run TB500 without a cancer screening. I shouldn't really be running growth hormone or BPC without a cancer screening at this point.
No.
It's been like a year on various anabolics and other peptides. So I'm due. And when I see my doctor in 3 weeks, I'm going to have that conversation with him.
Yeah.
But at some point or another, I want to see if any of the changes systemically have an impact. Because my fingers are feeling good. My shoulder and bicep do feel really good right now. But I also have some lingering stuff in both ring fingers from when I was pulling heavy on a straight edge. Now that I'm on the mixed edge, it feels way better.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I could get any relief on that, I'm not trying to make these things sound better than people already make them sound.
Yeah.
But
no, totally.
I'm curious like everyone else. And I also just want to set the record straight. It also, because we don't have human data on it, it's possible that it's more impactful on younger folks versus older folks. I'm not willing to take TB500, which could be part of it. There's a lot of variables to account for, but it's still super interesting feedback.
Yeah. The very I feel like this must be said for my case. I am a 20-year-old athlete. I have other than my 3 ACL tears, I have 0 health problems.
Yeah.
I am healthy. I take probably 10 grams of creatine a day. I'm very intentional with my collagen taking. I take quite a lot of it. I am very intentional with my dieting and more specifically like protein intake and making sure I'm doing as much for my body as I can. And then in addition to that, so for me, it's very important to note that when I have these what sound fantastical results from this situation, it is very important to note that I'm taking every other precaution first to give my body as good of a chance as possible to do as well as possible.
Yeah, you're putting yourself in a position to succeed. Yeah. And this is one of the things that I say all the time, and you're sort of an example of this, or you are an example, not sort of. The drugs can't do the work for you. You still need to do the work, and they're force multipliers. You can't just pin a bunch of growth hormone or healing peptides and expect your fingers to get strong. You need to train like an animal, and then it can multiply that work. And the same thing happens with healing. If you're getting your rest, if you're staying off of it, if you're doing your rehab exercises, it seems like it can cut down healing times really substantially. Totally. But again, you have to put yourself in positions for these things to succeed.
Yeah, I train all the time. I'm very intentional with, doing my meaningful rehab. I do PT all the time. I'm using it as an accelerator, not as a substitute for everything else.
Does your doctor know you're doing this? It's okay. I'm just curious.
No, he does not.
Is your doctor
no,
or have you seen your doctor since starting this?
No, I have not.
Okay.
But I mean, I've had post-ops with other people, but they didn't ask, and I didn't say.
Okay. I'm just curious if they were like, what the fuck is this guy doing? This is crazy.
No, and I would like to be very clear that my last ACL reconstruction was awful because it was a hamstring graft, and because I almost had to get a knee replacement. That's how bad my knee was after. It was awful. I actually have a fifth ligament in my knee. It's pretty cool. It prevents my ACL from re-rupturing from rotational force. It's really cool.
Crazy.
It's crazy, but it was bad. It was like almost a knee replacement. And so my knee was locked in a brace at 0 for 6 weeks. There was just nothing to do about that. But the first ACL reconstruction, it was a patellar tendon. The knee was not close to, needing, it was fine. It was just an ACL reconstruction. Whatever, that's overblown. But I recovered from that one pretty okay. And so, to be honest, I was having accelerated ACL reconstruction this time. In the 3 days before I started taking it after the surgery, it's already way better. It was already accelerated. And so that's an important note to be had for sure.
Yeah. By the way, how did you get into coaching youth kids?
Yeah. I basically this is so silly. I wanted a free gym membership.
Valid. A lot of people do that.
And so I started. I just have a history of being a camp counselor and working with kids in other forms like that, but never with climbing. Yeah. And then I got really into climbing, and then I started consuming quite a lot of information, became quite educated about it, and then it just seemed like the next logical step. I became a climbing coach, but recreationally, and then I applied, and then I proved myself, and then I just became a comp coach. And honestly, it helps the kids for sure. It helps me more because I just get an avenue where twice a week I get to very intelligently think about their climbing, my climbing, micro technique. It's just that is just valuable to me that I get to be in a space with many of my coworkers who are way better at climbing than I am, or way more intelligent than I am. So it's definitely a resource.
That's beautiful, man. Question: do you have any upcoming projects once you get back to full health and full strength?
Yes, I have 3 outdoor V12 projects, all 3 of which I have done in 2 parts.
Okay.
Meaning I just need to go back out there and link the parts back together, and then I'll have done the climbs. I've done every single move on all 3 of those climbs, and I'm so psyched to get back on them. But yeah, I have those.
Where are they?
So I live in Boulder, Colorado. Mm-hmm. So pretty much. One in Boulder, there's one in Golden, Colorado. Actually, both of the other 2 are in Golden, Colorado. But yeah, so it's not too far of a drive, and they're just beautiful lines. 2 of which are Daniel Woods FAs. They're beautiful.
You got good taste, man. Also, there's no shortage of amazing climbs in Colorado, but still, picking any Daniel Woods FA, that's pieces.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, man. Anything else you want to add before we start wrapping up?
Oh yeah, the last thing that I wanted to mention, and this is just a very interesting note that I had from taking peptides that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know like all of the like seeming results of like the mechanisms of actions and stuff like that, including angiogenesis, which very much, like to be clear, has a prevalent risk of oncotic risk, so cancer risk. That is just an inherent risk of TB500. That's also just, part of it when pinning that kind of thing. But part of angiogenesis is just new blood vessels on addition to your current ones. My nerve block from my last knee surgery, I'm still numb from here to here in like a 3-inch wide radius. All of this is completely numb. On this knee surgery, sorry if you see the stitches.
No, that's
I'm in 2 weeks compared to a year and 2 months. It's already down to 3/4 of it's like this much, which is just incredible, like nerve repair in a time. I think that is a very stark difference. months.
Have you tried, I don't know if this would work. I'm just sort of like spitballing here. Have you ever tried pinning the other knee to see if you could get any sort of localized help on that while you still have some of the extra TB and BPC?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm doing SM in the stomach, or SC in the stomach.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so, honestly, I didn't even think about this when I started doing it, but now I am. Because the hamstring graft for my last one, it basically debilitated my like hamstring.
Yeah.
But I'm taking it. Obviously I'm on BPC and TB500 now. I'm assuming I'm hoping that there is some positive effects from what I'm currently taking on my hamstring.
So it's possible. In general, obviously it's pretty systemic with the healing, but I have heard anecdotally that something more topical has localized benefits. Again, I'm going off of things that are happening anecdotally. It's not like we have any really good clinical trials in humans to be able to confirm this. But I'm just curious if you're going to get any relief on the other leg to see if that would make
I
a
hope
difference.
so. Yeah, I think an update in a bit of time will be a very interesting thing.
We should check back in 2 to 4 weeks and see how you're doing.
For sure, because ACLRs are just it's just a period of time, and so you got to compare it by periods of time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
beautiful, man. Thomas, again, thanks for sitting down with us. We obviously all wish you the speediest of recoveries on this, and thank you so much for sharing your experience, both as far as getting your feet or dipping your toes into the peptide game, as well as just your experience with climbing as a coach, some of your upcoming projects. I think that's dope, dude.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You're a wealth of knowledge. You're the reason that I felt confident enough to start taking this. And to everyone watching out there, I promise this guy he is the most credible and the most honest about about presenting the information clearly and accurately to everyone possible. It is just incredible the work that you're doing. So I appreciate you.
Genuinely means a lot. I hope that your life is better for this, both in terms of time getting off the wall or getting back on the wall, and that you don't have any downsides from it going forward, because again, we're still in uncharted territory.
Yes, we are.
All right, guys. That's going to wrap this up. We're going to go ahead and call it here. But if you guys, please do not forget to like, subscribe. Please join the Discord if you have any questions for myself or Thomas. This is Thomas Lees. I'm Adam with Anabolic Climbing. We're going to link his Instagram below. Or do you want your Instagram link below? Where do you want the people to find you?
Sure, we can do my Instagram.
Cool. Where can they find you?
It will be it's just at Cooper Lees 1. And that's it. That's just my Instagram handle.
We're gonna link it in the description box below. Yeah, guys. As per usual, I'm Adam with Anabolic Climbing. Wishing you guys good luck and happy sending. I will see you in the next one. Take care.